obviously a good complication, but how much trickier is it to think go big, go small when Looney is playing like this? You want your best players on the floor. He's been really good, but yet you do so well when you go small. Just how much more complicated is it, say, this year than it's been in the past?
I don't know that it's that more complex, really. I mean, we faced the same issues last year in the playoffs against Memphis and Boston, and you make adjustments as you see fit, and so that might mean going smaller, getting another shooter on the floor, but time and score can dictate some of that. Every game's so different, and so you just have to go in with an open mind and feel the game. But I think it's because of the nature of our roster and the makeup of our roster, it's a decision we've had to make many times over the years.
Sort of related question, I guess. Given Jordan obviously played well last night, and given this matchup, how much more does he sort of fit this matchup? It seems the way the Lakers play should fit Jordan's style more, and maybe tempt you to go small more.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan played great. I mean, we needed his scoring and his playmaking, and so every series is different, and you just try to get a feel for it. And I thought last night's game called for a lot of minutes from Jordan, and he came through and gave us good production. So tomorrow could be totally different. You just never know. You got to play it by ear.
Hey, Steve, I know you were asked about the free throw discrepancy last night, but when they take 17 before you guys take 1 against that interior defense, what are little ways schematically you guys can maybe get to the line earlier on?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I thought we did some good things getting the ball into the paint, but you have to get a feel for Davis and their size and length before you can really figure out exactly how you're going to attack. So I think game ones are great for that reason. You feel it, then you see it on tape, and then you can adjust from there. I just think we can play with more force overall. I thought they were the more aggressive team last night. And with a little more energy, a little more force, then I think we're much more likely to be attacking and getting to the foul line.
Hey, Steve, you just mentioned playing with more force. You talked about playing maybe smaller. That almost seems to be a trigger for Draymond to play that way, because you might have to play him at small ball 5. Have you talked to him? Do you feel like you need to tell him, hey, this is going to be your matchup playing against AD and we're going to need more from you?
I don't ever really need to say much of anything to Draymond. He was very disappointed last night, in the loss, and I know he feels like he could have done more. And I know Draymond well. He always responds from a game like that with great energy, great effort, and I have no doubt he'll play well tomorrow. He'll be ready to go.
Steve, were you at least a little bit surprised to see AD out there for 44 minutes, LeBron for 40, or does that just tell you what the urgency meant to the Lakers and their staff?
Yeah, I think they just I'm guessing they felt like game one, they had the 4 days of rest and we didn't, and this was their opportunity. So, the beginning of the fourth quarter, that's when they did not make their usual sub pattern, and so they were going for it. And it obviously paid off for them, although I thought we were the fresher team down the stretch as a result. And that's when we made our push. So who knows? But I do think that with every game being every other day from here on out, that I think our speed and our pace can definitely have an impact in that regard.
You guys are right around 40% from 3 last night. Is that about what you want to see from your team?
40% is a good number, and I have no problem with the total number of threes as long as they're, for the most part, good shots, open shots. I thought we took a few that could have been better. We can get closer to the line occasionally, where we've got openings, but if we just step up, we're taking a 25-footer instead of a 30-footer. I think there were some plays like that, but for the most part, the guys took care of the ball, moved it, executed well. We saw some things we can add. We saw some things we can do better, and that's the plan for tomorrow.
Hey, Steve. Some of the Lakers' game plan was to shade and, force guys baseline before they catch the ball. How are you guys going to go into game 2 with more of a mindset and build off of that?
Well, the Lakers have a great defense, one of the best in the league, and they try to funnel everything to Davis at the rim. They're playing us a little bit like we played Sacramento in the first round. It's getting on top of our shooters and sending everything, back door rather than letting our shooters come off the top. So something we're very familiar with since we just did that ourselves defensively. And, we feel like we have counters for that. We showed some of them last night, and we've got some others that we can go to. And our guys are really smart, and they figure it out. Lakers were in basically a defense trying to avoid threes, and we got 51 of them up. So our guys know how to get them up regardless.
With Kuminga, is there at some point, is there a kind of a diminishing returns where if he doesn't play in a playoff series, doesn't play a couple games, it's harder to put him back in? Or in your mind, is it just the same every game with a young guy like him?
Yeah, the playoffs are tough in that regard. JaMychal just got through basically not playing 6 out of the 7 games against Sacramento, and because it just wasn't an ideal matchup. And the opponent changes. You see, the opportunity for JaMychal to play in a game like last night. He stays ready. He comes out and knocks down a couple jumpers. Like, that's what the playoffs are about. Every game is different. Every series is different. And so it's on every player. And I tell all our guys is to stay ready. Stay ready for whatever opportunity comes your way, because injuries happen, matchups change, but it's not easy. It's not an easy job to all of a sudden get out there and play after sitting for a week or two. So it's all part of it.
You mentioned with JaMychal that you thought this might be a 2 extra big kind of series. Do you not consider Kuminga big? I know you don't really play him like that, but could he be seen at all as an extra big in the series?
Yeah, he could be seen that way, and that could change. The series could go that route, and that's why he just has to stay ready.
Steve, you mentioned you don't have to really remind Draymond of anything, but with Jordan, it's easy to forget he's still very young, I think 23. How much do you have to remind him to, as you like to put it, be quick without hurrying? Mm-hmm. Because it seemed like last night, compared to the Kings series, he did that. He was more under control, and probably why he played well.
Yeah, I think Jordan is trending in that direction. Game 7 against Sacramento, he was under control and got us into our offense, made some really good plays, and then that continued last night. He's got to understand that a lot of the calls that he gets in the regular season, he's not going to get during the playoffs. It's a general rule for everybody. He had the 1-3 that he made that he kind of tried to draw the foul, and they didn't call it. That's a regular season call. It's not a playoff call. And so part of being a young player is figuring out, the different officiating and understanding what you're going to get, what you're not going to get, and the importance of making sound decisions each time down the floor.
Is that a frequent conversation with him? Because it seems like he seeks contact a lot. And in some situations, obviously that's a good thing, but it seems like sometimes maybe he seeks it at the risk of the shot or at the expense of the shot.
Yeah, you have to gauge, where your advantage is. Like, if you have a true advantage and you attack, you're going to get the call. If you don't have much of an advantage and you sort of do the sell job, then you're not going to get the call. And against Sacramento, he had, I think, 2 different games where he had 8 or 10 free throws each. And those were crucial plays for us. And so I think there's going to be moments in this series where he's going to draw some fouls and get to the line, and we'll need that. But again, it's just finding that path.
Hey, Steve. With Looney, I know you've talked a lot about his transformation as a player in the time that he's been in the organization, but if you could kind of recall at what point you felt like he could be a world-class rebounder, like you started to actually see it.
Maybe not until last year, really. I think Decky, our assistant, really started working with him last year. And, Loon has always had a good feel for the game. He was a guard in high school, or a wing, I should say, and handled the ball and shot threes. And a lot of guys like that who play guard and then become big guys, they have a good feel because they've seen the game from a guard's angle. So Loon always had a lot of innate feel and IQ. So the first thing that he did well that kept him on the floor was switch defensively. I think I want to go back to the 17 playoffs when we played Houston, and he was switching onto Harden and staying in front, and that's when we realized his value as a player. And his positional defense inside, and his strength and length. But the rebounding really has become elite over the last 2 seasons. It's a reminder that every player should be constantly trying to get better in different areas, and that it's just like life. We're all lifelong learners. You never sort of get to a point where you go, okay, I got it now. You're constantly trying to learn and grow and get better, all of us.
Back to Draymond real quick. Last night he talked about kind of the early foul troubles, how that really kind of took him out of his game a little bit. What's finding the sweet spot with him and striking that right balance of being aggressive, getting a body on, and hopefully wearing down Anthony Davis early on, but avoiding that early foul trouble as well?
Yeah, I mean, that's the trick, but he's the master. Draymond will figure that out. And I think he probably regrets the one foul where he pulled Vanderbilt. He tried to draw an offensive foul against Vanderbilt. I think the refs made the right call where Vanderbilt was screening in and Draymond kind of pulled him. I think that was his second, maybe even his third. Was that his third? Yeah. So that one, he'd like to have back, I'm sure. But that's the balance. But Draymond he's the best. He understands this better than anybody, and he'll be out there and he'll be playing at a much higher level tomorrow.
Steve, how would you feel about Loon taking a wide open three?
Not great. I think Loon wouldn't feel great about it either.
Clay had 18 of his 25 points in the first half, and I saw he had some good looks off the down screens. When you guys were flaring, the teams shot the gap. How do you feel about his game one performance?
Yeah, I thought Clay was great. Came out aggressively and looking for his shot, and found ways to combat the defense that he was seeing, and freed himself up, and got some good looks that in the second half that didn't go. But all in all, I loved Clay's game.
What does it say about Andrew Wiggins that he could miss as much time as he did and just kind of step in and look like he hasn't really skipped a beat once he did find his groove?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. He missed 10 weeks, and then, his first game back is game one of the Sacramento series. And now here he is, playing big minutes and important minutes for us. So we're just thrilled to have him back, and this is a big series for him. We're playing a big athletic team, and, he represents a lot of our athleticism and size. So we're going to need Wiggs for sure in this series.
Kind of going off of that question, as an athlete, as a former athlete yourself, it is very difficult coming into situations like that off of being, off for X amount of time. What is some advice that you gave Wiggins when he came back?
Really early on, it was just to make sure he was getting his work in without overdoing it, and building his stamina back up. And I told him, I said, don't try to be a hero. Listen to the performance staff. They've got a good plan. If you remember, he didn't play at all in the final 2 regular season games because they didn't feel like he had a foundation underneath him of conditioning and endurance. So So we just, followed the performance team's plan, and I just encouraged him to do so because those guys know what they're doing. And then Wiggs is such a great natural athlete that he got his wind back pretty quickly.